Recap in minutes. Today we will be going through a war, drama, and action movie from 2017, called Sand Castle. There will be spoilers ahead in this video, so chill out and enjoy. The movie begins in Kuwait in March 2003, where American soldiers are getting ready to enter Iraq. Private Matt Okray walks to his friend Sergeant Cole, and says he is heading to see his doctor to get his hand checked. He says he is right in time to remove that, as they will enter Iraq together. Cole wishes him to be safe in the war. He goes to see the base doctor who checks his wound. The doctor gives him some medicine, and asks him to get ready to go to war with the boys. He actually does not want to go Iraq and says he is still unable to make a fist. The doctor says that he has already seen guys rolling out with a lot worse. So better get ready to get yourself up. He comes back to his unit and asks Sergeant Harper whether they're moving out for the war or not. He says he does not know more than him. The command will let them know when they are ready. Moments later, Sergeant Harper and Private Okray are preparing their Humvee, and get intercepted by Sergeant Major Matt Greger. He alerts them to move downhill at any time. Later that night, his unit begins to march forward their Humvees as they go for the war in Iraq. They kept moving all night and entered Baghdad in the morning. They get engaged in a gunfight in the streets. Sergeant Chutsky takes Okray as they run faster towards a mosque and building, from where the fires are coming. Kidwell along with the others accompanied them. Chutsky and Okray get on the rooftop and inform them that the fires are coming from behind the mosque. Chutsky asks him to get the snipers' positions. Getting on the top, Okray immediately informs Sergeant Dillon that the snipers are on the third floor. Chutsky suggests an airstrike to destroy the entire building where the sniper is inside. This shocks Okray, and he asks him if it's the right thing to bomb the building for just one man. Chutsky does not pay attention to him and a helicopter appears. It bombs the entire floor and turns back. Chutsky appreciates Okray and later, they go to a mansion to celebrate their successful mission in the city. They all rejoice in their success while Okray sits aside on a couch in the corner, and thinks about his future. 3 months later, a first lieutenant comes to Staff Sergeant Harper and asks him to come with him. He tells him that their Apache helicopter spotted a weapon exchange near the village of Bakuba. They fired on a truck fully filled with RPGs. That blast put a hole in Baghdad's water station and the supply is broken. Lieutenant then says that the command wants some of his soldiers to attach to the Special Forces team on the ground. Harper listens and wants to answer, but Lieutenant hands him an order that he'll report to Captain Siverson, and start their mission to run water to the town. After that, they'll be receiving some money to get the locals working with the engineers on the pumping station. Sergeant Harper protests and says everyone is talking about going home, and now he wants them to go to an unknown and uncontrolled land. Major does not give him any choice, and says they can go home after finishing this last mission. Later, Sergeant Harper announces their new mission with the unit. He briefs all the details of the mission to Enzo, Chutsky, Burton, and Okray. But after some time, they accept the task of repairing a broken water system in the dangerous village of Bakuba. Moments later, Okray talks with Sergeant Harper and starts opening up about his fear of getting into the village. Okray then says they don't control the area, and it's possible that the people in that area will not be happy to see them, as they destroyed their water supply during the battle. Then Sergeant Harper assures him that they will be pleased once they get the water flowing again. The next day, they are on the road to go to the village, but Harper receives a warning that attacks up and down the way, so they must maintain convoy integrity. After some time, they reach the village camp and meet up with a Special Forces unit led by Captain Siverson. Siverson walks toward Enzo to get the water flowing upon entering the village. With cans in their hands, the people start shouting for water after seeing the truck. Some are trying to get aggressive to fill their cans first by pushing Harper's unit. Afterward, the distribution of the water, Siverson introduces them to their interpreter, Mahmoud, and explains how to keep the water flowing and win the people's hearts and minds. He then warns them not to play with Mahmoud because he's a prodigy. And then he shows them their rooms. He cautions them saying that no one outside the gate wants them there, so they better do their job and turn their roars into whispers. The next day, Captain Siverson orders them to travel to the pump station and the distro points, fill a tank with water, and bring it back to the village every day. They prepare 2 Humvees and 1 tank per day. The unit goes to the distro point afterward. At the station, an army engineer working on the pump explains that it will take many weeks to finish repairs, 2 weeks for electrical and 4 for the pipes to repair. Sergeant Harper informs him that he will be recruiting some of the locals to help, and the repairs will take less time. They move from the point after that and get on the road to the village. However, they spot a pickup truck coming up at high speed behind them. Sergeant Harper orders Burton to stop their vehicle and investigate the man behind the car. Afterward, they stop him and begin interrogating the driver, and Mahmoud translates him. He says his daughter is sick. He's taking her to a relative who has a pharmacy in the town. They check their truck and it is clear. Chutsky stops Harper and says these guys use kids for their missions, and he assumes that he gets a bad feeling about the guy. He asks him to arrest him and let the SF guys handle him. But Harper refuses to believe him and gives the guy some money, saying that he should not see him on the road again. But the man refuses to accept the money and leaves. Back at the village, they have reached a distro point in the village, and Mahmoud announces that they will be distributing water on their location every day at 10 a.m. He says their engineers are working very hard to get their pump station fixed. He then informs the locals that they will pay anyone who shows up to work tomorrow, because they need help repairing the pump. Now they continue filling the cans of the villagers despite struggling to line them up. The next morning, they went to the same distro point to pick up the local laborers, but no one in the village showed up. They feel helpless and the unit decides to go to the pump station. They drive their vehicle to the station with no local laborers. Upon their arrival at the station, the army engineer asks about the Iraqis. Sergeant Harper answers that no one shows up in the village, and says that he and the captain will meet with the sheik later. They go to Captain Siverson, take him and go to Sheik's house with Harper. They meet him and ask his help to give them some of his men. Sergeant Harper says that he will protect his people even at night. But he says that he doesn't want any American soldiers in his home. Mahmoud reminds him that the soldiers give water to his people. However, the sheik says that his people do not trust the Americans, and asks them to leave his house. This is how Sergeant Harper and his meeting with the sheik turned out as a failure. While standing out on the road, a community school administrator approaches Okray, saying that he needs to fill the tanks in the school for the children. Okray agrees and says they will try to see it by tomorrow. The administrator then thanks him and tells him his name is Kadir. So, with no labor forthcoming from the village, Okray and his unit are forced to help the engineers themselves. One day, during Okray and the unit's other trip, several insurgents with semi-automatic weapons attack them, shooting holes in their water tank. They engage in heavy gunfire but manage to save their lives. The next day, while passing out water, sudden gunfire breaks out. The villagers panic and run away from the tank. Okray and the unit engage in a fierce gunfight with the insurgents, who were shooting from the rooftops. Some of the villagers get shot in the process, and when Chutsky runs to take the position behind the wall, he gets shot too, and killed on the road. They get angry with Sergeant Harper and mourn Chutsky's death. The next day, Kadir comes outside the gate to see Okray, and apologizes for what happened to his friend Chutsky. And then he talks about the water that Okray and the squad will fill in the school, because he's already desperate to fill the school's tank to keep the school open. Okray refuses to do it immediately and reminds him about the shooting from yesterday. He shouts that they can help arrange the men for the repairing work. But Okray does not listen to him and keeps walking. After a while, Okray goes to Captain Siverson to inform him about Kadir's offer that they will help them repair the pump. Fortunately, Siverson agrees to hear Okray's plans, saying that it's an excellent opportunity to work with him to reach out to the community. After that, Okray and Sergeant Harper along with his unit men go to the school, and give them containers full of water. Afterward, they begin their discussion with Kadir and talk about the laborers. Kadir arranges for some workers. The next day, Kadir brings some locals, including his brother Arif. Afterward, they started repairing the pump with the help of the villagers. While working, Arif says to the army engineers that he will make a new pump in 2 to 3 days. With the passage of time, American soldiers and the Iraqi villagers formed a good relationship with each other. They play, work, and eat together. One morning, none of the Iraqis showed up to the pump. Okray and the unit decide to return to the village, where they find Kadir's body burned in the school. His wife yells at him but he cannot understand what happened. Arif sees them going back and he visits the camp of Siverson. He tells Captain Siverson where the insurgents have been meeting. Arif points out the flower shop where the insurgents hide. Captain Siverson apologizes for his brother's death and calls his men, as they form a plan to attack that night. Fortunately, their attack succeeds in killing several enemies and capturing more. During their battle against the insurgents, Corporal Enzo and Sergeant Burton are seriously injured by an explosion. Captain Siverson calls for a helicopter to evacuate them to safety. Days later, when workers return to the pump site, they resume their efforts to repair the pump station. However, tragedy strikes as one of the workers brings an improvised explosive device to the site, and carries out a suicide attack, causing a devastating explosion. This horrific event not only destroys all the progress made by the group, but also results in the loss of several American and Iraqi lives, including Arif. Sergeant Harper and Okray escape the attack, and Harper instantly requests an immediate medevac and reinforcements. Afterward, Okray and Harper return to their base in Baghdad. There they meet the First Lieutenant Anthony, who approves their leave to go home. The movie ends when Sergeant Harper and Sergeant Major Mac Gregor escort O'Cray to the airfield and wish him good luck for his travel home. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe Recap in Minutes for more videos like this and help the channel grow.